Welcome to Deep Divers, the show where we explore stories that soar above the clouds and dive deep into the world's most fascinating technology and history. Today, we're talking about a plane that was faster than a bullet, more luxurious than first class, and arguably ahead of its time. The Concorde. Once the crown jewel of aviation, Concorde could cross the Atlantic in just over 3 hours at twice the speed of sound. But today, it's grounded, museum-bound and silent. So what happened? And more importantly, can supersonic travel ever make a comeback? Buckle up. Let's fly through the past, present, and potential future of high-speed flight. In the post-war era of the 1950s and 60s, the world was gripped by a powerful obsession: the future. Nations were racing to space, pushing the limits of engineering, and turning science fiction into fact. And one of the greatest dreams? Flying faster than sound, not in a military jet, but in a commercial airliner. France and Britain, two former colonial powers now trying to reassert their technological dominance, teamed up to achieve what had never been done: create a supersonic passenger aircraft that could connect continents in a fraction of the time. The result was Concorde. Its very name signified harmony between the two nations. It was a project driven by innovation, political pride, and fierce ambition. First taking to the skies in 1969, the Concorde was unlike anything the public had seen. Sleek, futuristic, and intimidatingly fast, it captured the imagination of the world. The future of aviation had arrived, or so we thought. Concorde wasn't just another plane, it was an engineering masterpiece. Flying at Mach 2.04, twice the speed of sound, it could cruise at over 1,350 miles per hour. To compare, a Boeing 747 flies at around 570 miles per hour. That meant Concorde could take you from London to New York in just 3 hours and 30 minutes, half the usual time. But speed was only part of the story. Concorde flew at altitudes of up to 60,000 feet, so high that passengers could see the curve of the Earth. The sky appeared darker, almost space-like. You were literally flying on the edge of Earth's atmosphere. It had a drooping nose that lowered during takeoff and landing to improve visibility, and it expanded several inches in length mid-flight due to the intense heat from air friction. Inside, it was compact but classy: white leather, polished service, champagne on tap. You weren't just flying, you were arriving in style. Flying Concorde was a statement of success. Yet, Concorde came with a cost, and not just the ticket price. Each flight consumed a staggering amount of fuel. Despite carrying only 100 passengers, it guzzled as much fuel as a standard airliner carrying 3 times as many people. Tickets could run up to $10,000 per round trip. That meant Concorde wasn't accessible to the masses. It catered to celebrities, CEOs, and the ultra-wealthy. And then there was the noise. At takeoff, Concorde was deafening. And at cruising speed, its sonic boom shattered windows and rattled buildings, making overland flight practically illegal. It could only fly over oceans, limiting it to a few long-haul routes. Even more troubling, Concorde was never financially viable. It was subsidized by governments, and only 14 of them ever flew commercially. Boeing abandoned their own supersonic project, and no other airline showed serious interest. 4 years, Concorde flew incident-free. But that changed on July 25, 2000. Air France Flight 4590 was departing from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris when it struck a piece of metal debris left on the runway by another aircraft. That debris punctured a tire, which exploded, and a piece of rubber struck the fuel tank, causing a fire. Just 2 minutes later, the Concorde crashed into a hotel, killing all 109 people on board and 4 on the ground. It was the only fatal accident in Concorde's 27-year history, but it was enough to rattle public confidence. The entire fleet was grounded for safety upgrades: Kevlar lining in the fuel tanks, new tires, strengthened systems, but the magic had been broken. Bookings dropped, insurance costs rose, and by 2003, both Air France and British Airways quietly retired the Concorde. The era of supersonic passenger travel was over. After Concorde's retirement, many hoped it would one day return. But that never happened. And the reasons are both practical and economic. First, the infrastructure to maintain Concorde vanished almost overnight. Spare parts were scarce, and trained engineers moved on. The planes themselves, complex and high maintenance, sat idle in museums. Second, airline priorities shifted. The 21st century brought a new focus: cost efficiency, fuel economy, and environmental impact. Speed, it turns out, was no longer the top priority. Governments had also moved on. No longer willing to foot the bill for risky aviation experiments, they shifted their funding to space tech and defense. Lastly, regulations tightened. Sonic booms remained illegal over land. Emissions rules got stricter. Concorde simply couldn't meet the demands of modern air travel. But the dream of supersonic travel never fully died. New startups are aiming to bring it back, but better. Take Boom Supersonic, for example. Their prototype jet, Overture, promises to carry up to 80 passengers at Mach 1.7, using sustainable aviation fuel and flying quieter than Concorde ever could. United Airlines and American Airlines have even placed pre-orders. NASA, too, has entered the race with the X-59, a futuristic jet designed to eliminate the sonic boom, replacing it with a soft thump that wouldn't disturb people on the ground. If successful, it could change regulations and open up new routes. Other players like Spike Aerospace and Exosonic are working on sleek, business-class-only supersonic jets aimed at executive travel. What sets these efforts apart is their emphasis on sustainability, efficiency, and compliance with modern noise and emission standards. But there's a long way to go. Most projects are still in development, with test flights planned over the next few years. And they face significant hurdles: costs, regulation, safety, and public perception. So, will we ever see the return of supersonic passenger flights? The answer, maybe, but not like the Concorde. The future of high-speed travel will likely be more measured, more refined. Smaller jets. Fewer passengers. Less environmental impact. It will be a niche market, not a mass one. And even if we solve the noise and fuel issues, there's the human factor. Do people really need to get somewhere twice as fast if it costs 5 times more? Concorde remains a symbol of what's possible when imagination and engineering collide. Its story is a cautionary tale, but also a source of inspiration. The next Concorde may not look like the last, but it could change the skies once again. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While efforts have been made to ensure factual accuracy, some historical and technical details have been simplified or dramatized for narrative effect. The content does not represent professional aviation, engineering, or financial advice.